Hello, everyone. It's Phil Lee returning with another episode of Civil War Chat. Today is Tuesday, the 11th of October, 2022. And our presentation today is titled Despite Slavery. But before we get into that, please click on the subscribe button below here if you'd like to subscribe to future episodes, and also the notification bell in the far upper right to be notified when they're released. If you click on that and you make a comment that is sufficiently offensive to our opponents, then we'll discuss it on the next show. Okay, so let me go ahead and get started with my presentation today. Despite slavery. Jim Bacon of Bacon's Rebellion, of the Bacon's Rebellion blog, explains that those wanting to destroy Confederate monuments reason as follows. Statues to Confederate soldiers, they assert, were erected as white supremacy and racist symbols. White supremacy and racism must be expunged. Therefore, these figures must be removed from the public sphere. Step by step, this syllogism has been extended to any figure tainted with racism, segregation, or slaveholding. An individual's accomplishments account for nothing if he is tagged with one of those labels. And historical context is irrelevant. The syllogism is the very essence of critical race theory, because critical race theory evaluates Western history only in terms of the wrongs committed against Blacks. As a result, it teaches the student ultimately to hate Western and American civilizations. Nothing else matters, most especially the wrongs that Blacks committed and continue to commit against each other. These do not matter. Some examples are the slaves brought out of dark Africa were sold to white traders by other Blacks who captured their victims in the African hinterland. That does not matter in critical race theory. Similarly, in America today, Black perpetrators account for 90% of the crimes against other Blacks. That doesn't matter in critical race theory. Those who lecture critical race theory, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and similar agendas narcissistically believe themselves at the present moment to be more highly evolved ethically than the men whose statues they wish to tear down. They fail to realize that if they had lived at their time, they might have had similar attitudes to George Washington, people that were slaveholders. For example, attitudes towards homosexuality back then, they might well have shared those same attitudes with George Washington. They wouldn't have had the same enlightened attitudes that they have today. In truth, these lecturers of critical race theory and diversity, equity, and inclusion are insignificant compared to the giants who shaped our country before these latter-day narcissists were born. Additionally, the narcissists fail to appreciate that those wishing to honor Confederate and other figures do so despite the historical involvement of those people with slavery, rather than because of it. Despite his status as a slaveholder, there would be no United States without George Washington. When he vacated the first presidency after 2 terms, he all but assured that our young country would survive as a republic, if it survived at all. With his victory at the Battle of New Orleans, slave owner Andrew Jackson showed the European monarchs that America could defend herself and thereby remain a republic. Without slaveholding presidents Thomas Jefferson, John Tyler, and James K. Polk, America's western border would be the Mississippi River instead of the Pacific Ocean. Finally, in contrast to the evasion of responsibility for the Afghanistan debacle by President Joe Biden and his Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin and his General Mark Milley, who is his head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, all of them have evaded any responsibility for that. They have declined to shoulder any of that. In contrast, Confederate General Robert E. Lee revealed true leadership when he took personal responsibility for his defeat at the Battle of Gettysburg. He did so spontaneously when riding forth on Traveler to meet the survivors coming back from Pickett's charge. He also did so personally in a letter to President Jefferson Davis, in which he offered to resign command of his army. In terms of shunning duty and responsibility, President Joe Biden is just the opposite. After gasoline peaked temporarily at $5 a gallon, he took credit for the partial decline that we saw after that peak. But now that that partial decline is being offset by a new surge, he blames that on the latest surge. He doesn't take any responsibility for that. He blames that on Russia or Saudi Arabia or some other factor, but not Joe Biden. Okay. Would like to share with you this book, which is the Causes of the Civil War. In order to defend Confederate statues, it's necessary to explain the causes of the Civil War in an honest way, which we are no longer getting from the academic community. Key thing about this book is it covers everything you'll see covered by the academics in terms of slavery and the declaration of causes for secession among at least 4 of the 7 cotton states, declaring slavery to be the reason for that. Here's the key difference. This book examines, in addition to those factors, the reasons why the North chose to fight. There need not have been a civil war if the North had let the first 7 cotton states secede peaceably. There would have been no war. Everybody at the time, and even today, it will be conceded, knows that the Confederacy was not going to invade the North. But the reason the North chose to inaugurate civil war was because they realized that the truncated North would be injured, that the economic prosperity of that remaining part of the country would have been damaged and hurt. Whereas the South, because of its strong exports, could stand on its own. So the real reason the North chose to fight was to protect their economy. Now, you can get a copy of this book for $22 at Amazon or Barnes & Noble. If you'd like to get a copy of the book at autographed by me, it would be $26. Just email me, Phil, PHIL _Lee, LEIGH @ me.com. Okay, that's our show for today, and thanks for watching.